final speaker during this segment on research capabilities is Jan Hickey, who is with the VA Clinical Research Pharmacy Coordinating Center.
Good morning. I think I'm supposed to I'm going to talk about VA's Partnered Research Program this morning. But first, let me tell you, the VA Partnered Research Program is a national program. The VA Cooperative Studies Program is, it's also a national program, but part of that program is local. So for the Cooperative Studies Program, excuse me, I have to change glasses. I can't see the slides with this pair. The problem of getting older. The Cooperative Studies Program is put together to do multi-site clinical trials. So multi-site means we send products to more than one clinical site, and typically more than 5 or more than 10 or more than 20 or more than 50. A lot of clinical programs, especially when you're starting up, you're going to start with one site. First of all, that's what you can afford. But as part of the VA's research program, the VA is looking at diseases of veterans, and so we're looking at multiple sites. The local program, we are the pharmacy center, so there are 5 different statistical centers. So for those of you that are interested in statistics, you would not want to work locally. You'd want to work in Boston or in one of the other locations. In our location, we do the drugs, or we do the medical devices. So we have a small manufacturing facility. We can make tablets and capsules. We cannot make any other dosage form. So if you need a parenteral, you don't want us. We also, in addition to manufacturing, we package. So we can do bottles, we can do blisters, and then we can ship the products to the clinical sites, or we can ship products direct to patient. For those of you in this field, direct to patient shipments are patients, and they don't know how patients are going to be randomized. So it's a more economical way to run a study. It has its own problems. So if you happen to be a patient and you decide to go to Florida for 3 months or to Ireland for the summer, and you forget to tell us that you've moved, then your product's going to go and sit in your mailbox at home. We have other things that go on, but in interest of time, I'm going to move on with this. First of all, I like being with Spaceport America and with White Sands, and there have been a number of references to Robert Goddard, so I too am a New Mexico native. I'm from Roswell, and if you look at the history of rocketry, one person mentioned that the East Coast doesn't like things falling on their head. They're concerned about that. So Dr. Goddard moved to New Mexico because his neighbors in Massachusetts didn't like what he shot in the air coming down by their farms and their barns and their houses. So he moved to Roswell, where he could be kind of out in the middle of the nowhere at the time and do his research. If you want to follow that trail, his wife donated his basically his workshop to the Roswell Museum and Arts Center. So it is there, and you can go from Roswell to Los Alamos and White Sands and to Spaceport America to see that trail. I'm not sure which, but oh, it's the biggest button and I'm not pushing it. The Partnered Research Program is a nationwide VA research program that was, the idea came in 2018 because VA wanted to get higher quality clinical trials, not just from within the VA, but from external sources. So startups, major companies, to give veterans access to clinical trials and better opportunities with drugs. VA, so there were lengthy startup times for VA studies. It takes us longer to get a site up and running than it would, say, our commercial studies or collegiate academic counterparts. The VA is not standardized across sites. We even work with that in our own program. Our 5 statistical centers aren't standardized. So they were looking at how do we standardize these sites, and then there was no single source for information and guidance. So it was a very frustrating experience to work with the VA. In response, the Office of Research and Development basically came up with a method to have a central confidentiality agreement, so organizations don't have to go and entertain a confidentiality agreement with, if they want 50 sites, with 50 individual sites, which saves a lot of time for people. It allowed for the ability to rely on private and commercial institutional review boards. All of your studies have to be approved with your local hospitals or with your nationwide institutional review board. So this simplifies the process of getting that done. And I was surprised to see this one. These are not my slides, so I'm speaking to someone else's slides, but the VA has their own central institutional review board, and this was interesting to me that you could use these private boards. And then they decided to establish this partnered research program. The people at the partner research program want to be the central contact, and that's to help guide you through all of VA and the VA processes. It started in 2020, and VA resources and stakeholders, and they want to make this process simple. One of their goals is to establish standard procedures across the VA system, which is a great undertaking because it's a mammoth organization, but to allow for you to have consistent operations when you work with each of the sites. And they want to serve as a resource to help you navigate your way through VA. They are also looking at identifying challenges. So when you work with the VA, what are your challenges? What problems are you coming up with? Or what, as the VA, are problems are our investigators having working with industry? And then look for ways to overcome those challenges. They also want to look at best practices for both industry and within the VA, so they can expand those to other clinical sites. The future goals essentially lead in our offshoots of those ideas. There are things that are not within the Partnered Research Program scope. They're not going to replace sponsors or investigators, contract research organizations, or other entities. They are not involved directly with the conduct of the trial. They're not qualified to help you conduct a trial. They are there as facilitators. And they want the sponsor or the contract research organizations to work directly with the VA sites. So they don't want to get in the middle and muddle things up for you. The VA will look at what kind of trial you're bringing, but they want you, before you bring it to the VA, to think, is this compatible with the VA? Now, veterans have the same diseases as all of us. We're veterans, by the way. So thank you, everyone, for your service, and hopefully through this, through the clinical trials program, we can be working with you to improve your health care. But when you bring programs, clinical studies, for example, we don't have any children veterans, so it's not a good idea to bring pediatric studies to the VA. And I've had people ask me about pediatric studies, and it's basically, it's not our mission, we can't accept them. So think about what you're looking at. They're also, the Partnered Research Program itself is looking to develop long-term collaborations. They want to work with organizations that want at least 5 clinical sites, and they want to work with organizations that want in the long run to do more than one clinical trial opportunity. So that perhaps additional drugs in the pipeline, or for this one drug, perhaps additional indications. And they also work with medical devices because we're focused on drugs. I always talk about drugs. Come on. Oh, I'm pressing the wrong button. Should you contact the Partnered Research Program office? Early. It takes a long time to put a clinical trial together. It takes a long time to establish protocols and work with investigators. So they want to be involved at least 6 to 12 months prior to the first participant you have into the study. As a manufacturing person, I'd like to see that happen even earlier because there's a lot involved with manufacturing. They will provide information to organizations. So most of New Mexico's organizations are small startups. They will provide you information. So if you need to know who is a VA investigator that I can work with in this field, they are supposed to provide you with information and help you connect with that person. They will make the first connection just to see if those investigators are interested in doing research in this area. But if they are, they will get back to you. They did want to emphasize that their primary focus is doing these partnership programs, but they are available for other things. This is one of the websites to contact the program. It's a decision tool and guidance sections to help you navigate the maze. When you send in your request, they have a form they want you to fill out, and the staff will contact you once they review the form to find out more information and get information on who should be contacted, and basically bring you together. If you have other scientific requests, or again for clinical studies, they will contact the appropriate researchers. If they're interested, relay the information back to you. Their primary role is to facilitate all of the activities that need to happen. And any general requests or guidance should be emailed to the VA Partner Research Program. Krista Karoff, whose slides these are, is the program manager, and she is the primary contact. Are there any questions? Hopefully I sped through that so you can get out a little earlier.